community pharmacists that are on this webinar would really see this very well in the community setting, because you have a lot of patients that come to you with a bottle of iron supplements, and it says 65 milligram, which is the strength of the elemental iron. And then they're asking you, oh, my doctor said I should get the 325 milligram, which is actually the salt. So the 325 milligram of ferrosulfate and the 65 milligram of elemental iron is the same thing. But consumers don't know that information. So ISMP has been advocating for the labeling of iron to be changed, because we have seen where somebody took 5 tablets of the 65 milligram of elemental iron, trying to make that 325 milligram of their dose, of the dose that the doctor asked them to take. Another thing that we recently identified was the fact that your liquid acetaminophen does say 500 milligrams, but it doesn't tell you in what volume. When you peel out the drug fact, which is actually not visible on the outside of it, so you have to actually peel out the label in the back to see where it does say 500 milligrams in 15. But one funny thing is, if you see the measuring cup that comes with this product, it says 30 ml. So we all know what patients are taking when they buy this medication. First, they don't know it's 500 milligram in 15 ml, and you maybe the doctor says take 1,000. You're gonna take two of those cups, which is 2,000 milligrams, because they don't see the directions for use there, and they're buying these things over the counter, so they don't even have the opportunity to talk to a pharmacist that can actually counsel them on how to take this product. So we have reached out to one of the biggest supplier of generic or over the counter product to adjust this label, because they supply to a lot of the pharmacies as the store brands. So we have reached out to them to actually change the way they're expressing the strength of this product. One other big problem we have that we have not been actually successful with the clear care. If you wear contact lenses and you use your contact lens solution, I don't know if you've tried this clear care before. It is a really good lens cleanser, but it has hydrogen peroxide, which actually burns the eye if you put it in your eyes directly. We've had reports where people think it's a regular lens, and they just the lens cleanser, and they just put it in their eye like maybe a wetting agent. Also, we've had situations where people don't follow the instructions for use. When you're using clear care, it comes with a specific lens holder where you put the lens in it and leave it overnight to stay for at least 6 hours. So the specific lens holder actually has something that neutralizes the hydrogen peroxide. And when it stays in there for 6 hours, in the morning when you use it, you don't have any effect from the hydrogen peroxide. If you don't follow that instruction and you actually just take the your lens and use your regular lens holder and put the clear hair in it, if you even leave it for even longer than 6 hours and wake up in the morning, take the lens and put it in your eye, it's going to burn your eye, because the hydrogen peroxide is still very active. So I'm talking about what we publish of the newsletters that we produce. ISMP does produce 5 newsletters, and our main newsletter is the Acute Care newsletter, which we publish every 2 weeks. We also have a newsletter for the long term care. We publish this bi monthly, and we do have a newsletter for the consumers, which we publish every other month. The nursing and the the community slash ambulatory care is published every month. All these newsletters, especially the acute care and the community slash ambulatory care newsletters, get to the FDA because they follow all what we publish. So, like I mentioned before, we have access to the FDA adverse drug reaction reports that are being submitted. So we access that and we look for safety signals. When we find safety signals, we write about them in the quarter wash newsletter. We publish this 4 times a year. Another newsletter that we do and we do produce this very, very rarely. We actually don't like producing this because the only time we produce this is when we identify something that is affecting many people and is leading to severe patient harm and death. We call this the non-alert, and we work in collaboration with association, the American Society of Health System Pharmacists and the National Canadian Council on Medication Error Reporting and Prevention, NICMER. So every time we produce a non-alert, every single hospital for free. And our most recent non-alert that we produced was when we identified that when patients go to the hospital, the nurses actually use an insulin pen needle that has the safety shield. So they only have one cover for their insulin pen needles. But when they go to the community to buy the insulin pen needle, they buy the regular pen needle, which has two covers. So the patients were not being educated on the fact that they have to take out the two administering their insulin. And it led to a lot of patients being admitted because they're developing diabetic ketoacidosis. Because when they take out the first cab, dial their dose, and they administer it, thinking they're getting the dose when they were not getting the dose because they were using a regular pen needle. ISMP does produce the action agenda. And one of the most important things that we try to make organizations understand is that we want them to learn from other organizations. There is this thing that people always say, oh, it cannot happen here. We have been doing things this way and nothing ever happened. But really advise organizations to look at what is happening in other organizations and find out ways that they can actually work on their process to make sure that doesn't happen. So in the action agenda, what we do is we look at the safety briefs that are actionable, and then we create a Word document and a PDF with the recommendations on what you can do to prevent it. So this is an example of an action agenda. So you have space for you to assess what your organization is doing. You also have a column for you to do your assignment, who should work on what, and when it should be completed. Like I mentioned, we have this in Word document because if you want to type in everything you're doing in there, then you can go ahead and just type it in the Word document version. You can access this on our website. And recently, we updated our website to require you to create an account. It's still free for you to use our tools and resources on our website. You just have to create a free account to access them. Another tool that we produce is our guidelines. So for our guidelines, we do produce them not as frequent, but we do produce guidelines that are on specific use that are for improving safety in areas in the healthcare. Our most recent guideline was the safety of the automatic dispensing cabinet. We also produced an electronic communication guideline this year, and we've produced more other guideline in like not long ago. One guideline we are working on right now is smart infusion pump. That's under revision. We had our summit for this guideline in May of last year, where we brought in all the manufacturers of smart infusion pump and some frontline practitioners to sit down and discuss how to improve the 2009 smart infusion pump guideline that we already had. This is the cover of our newest guideline, the safe use of automatic dispensing cabinet. And this is how our guideline for safe electronic communication looks like. This is also the cover. This is the cover for a guideline for insulin in adults. One other thing that ISMP is looking for is our targeted medication safety best practices for hospitals. So we started producing this in 2014 and we publish it every 2 years. And what we do here is that we look for they're developed to identify, inspire, and mobilize widespread adoption of best practice in medication safety issues that continue to cause patient harm. So what we do is after producing recommendations for a specific issue, if we still keep seeing patient harm occurring, then we consider putting that in a targeted medication safety This year, for the 2018-2019, we had 14 items, and eliminating promethazine, intravenous promethazine from the hospitals was one of the items that we added for this. And right now, we are working on creating the 2020-2021 targeted medication safety best practices. Last year, actually, we did call for organizations to consider creating the position of medication safety officers. So, medication safety officers are very instrumental, and it's a leadership position where you have someone dedicated in your health system or in your organization to looking at ways to prevent medication error. So, a lot of systems don't have this, and we wrote a white paper to call organizations to consider having this position. Also, recently we published a gap analysis to engineers push medication. Show that from the recent shortages, a lot of medications are being pushed these days. So we wanted to make sure that practitioners are actually pushing the medication safely. We did develop this of like a self-assessment, and what you do is you use the tool to have meetings, and you have like multidisciplinary team look at this tool and see, try to evaluate how your practice for IV push medication is, and then you submit the results. Deadline for collection of data for this is actually April 30th this year. Once to submit a report, to submit your results, you have to create an account, which is free. You do your assessment, you submit the report, your results, and then you submit your assessment, you get a report with your score. Once the deadline for submission passes, we're going to create an aggregate data where you can compare your score with other organizations that are actually the same size like yourself. One thing that ISMP strongly stands for is that you should use this for self improvement and not so much to compare with other organizations. Say you do it, you complete the assessment this year. I recommend that in a couple of years, you should just go back and assess yourself again to see what gaps are still there for you to make improvement. But you still have the option to expose with other organizations of similar size. So that just gives us a segue safe into our medication safety self-assessments. ISMP actually produced a couple of safety self-assessments, which are actual tools that are designed to help assess medication safety practices in your institution. They are intended to be completed by and like I mentioned before, you can compare your assessment results with other organizations. Right now, besides the IV tool, we don't have anything going on right now. So we had we recently had a self assessment which ended last year. Uh, this is a list of all the self assessments that we've published so far. We started publishing self assessments in 2001, where we started with the hospital self assessment. It was updated in 2004, and our last version was updated in 2011. In 2012, we created the oncology self-assessment where we work with ISMP Canada. ISMP Canada is a sister organization. So we work with ISMP Canada, and we use a lot of international advisory boards to actually draft this assessment, and they evaluated the assessment. It is housed under the ISMP Canada website, and this assessment, it's required that you pay a little fee to access it, but all of the ISMP sub-assessments are free to access besides this one. And it was also funded by the International Society of Oncology Pharmacists. 2017, we updated an anti-thrombotic therapy self-assessment, and we also updated our community and ambulatory pharmacy self-assessment. In 2018, we did publish our high alert self-assessment. So that's the most recent self-assessment that we do have. Other medication safety self-assessments that we have is we do have the root cause analysis workbook for community pharmacy, and this provides a set of tools to investigate the cause of a sentinel event. We have barcode readiness for community pharmacy. Even though it says for community pharmacy, some of the principles can actually be used in other systems. So we do have that this tool to help an organization better understand issues related to barcode product verification systems. We also have a tubing misconnection assessment where we did collaborate with Baxter in 2012 to produce this. And in 2018, we updated this tubing misconnection. But it is housed on the Baxter website. We also have physician practice patient safety assessment, and this one is housed in the Medical Group Management Association website. Guidelines and self-assessment, ISMP does have a lot of lists. We are well known for a list of high alert medications, and we were the first to produce this list. We have three of them. We have the list of high alert medications in the community pharmacy, in acute care, and in long-term care. This list are just more of, say, a starting point for organizations. So, what we advise organizations to do is to look at take this list, have it as your starting point, and then look at your practice and see medications that are leading to a lot of errors. You can add it to this list and then make recommendations on how to prevent or mitigate the risk to patients. So, we advise that even if we don't have a list here for your specific setting, you can look at this list and see the medications that you're using and start there as starting point to build your own list for your organization. We also have the list of error prone application. You will be surprised how many countries have adopted and we were the first to make it. We also have a list of confused drug names and we have the Tom and letter list. That ISMP does offer. ISMP has a mentorship program where we call it practitioners in residence. We have it for local, nationally and internationally. So the national one is a 1 week program where you can come to ISMP for 1 week and you have a tailored course that will address most of the things that you want to address. So you have a little bit of leeway in this one to tailor it to what you really want to get out of it, but you will still have access to all the medication safety experts and you have like a really structured program where you learn for 1 week. If it's international, we actually do 2 to 4 weeks. And we do offer a lot of webinars, and our webinars are mostly free. We recently had a webinar March 4th. And we also have the medication safety intensive, which is actually a 2 day workshop where leaders in medication safety meet with people that have registered, like the registered members, then they'll go over key aspects in medication safety. We normally have this like 3 times a year. Our next one is coming up in August, in April 2019, around the 25th to the 26th of April, which will be having one in Houston, Texas. A practitioner in residence program, we have one of April 1st, but that's for the national one. We have offered a lot of medication safety intensive programs. Countries actually invite us to come do it, and a couple of countries like Ireland and Saudi Arabia and Qatar have actually had medication safety intensive by ISMP done in their respective countries. Another aspect of education is the fellowship, which is where I fall right now. ISMP does have three, actually four, but what ISMP runs is three. We have the ISMP Fellow, which is a 1 year program, and we have the International ISMP, which is is a 2 year or a 1 year program. I am actually doing right now, and I was the first fellow for this program. Then we have another program which is FDA ISMP fellowship, where we have someone that will come stay for 6 months at ISMP office to learn about medication safety from ISMP standpoint, and then we'll spend 6 months at the FDA to learn about medication safety from FDA standpoint. Most of the time, we get questions like, where what job opportunities do you have after completing this program? And either any of the ISMP programs, fellowship programs we've had for the ISMP, regular ISMP fellows. We have a lot of them working in industry, a lot of them working as medication safety officers, and most of the FDA ISMP fellows actually secure jobs with FDA after they graduate. For the international ISMP fellow, I am the first person, so we'll see how that where that takes me. We also have another position fellowship, which is with the U.S. military. So the Army and the Navy send people from their different, and the Air Force, sorry, send people from their units to come complete a 1 year ISMP fellowship, which is kind of it's like the regular ISMP, but then they're being sponsored by. We do have a subsidiary company. What I've talked about and the fact that we work with industry to help change names and labeling is done freely when you're working with ISMP. So if we discover that we're having a lot of errors with the company's product, we can actually reach out to the company and talk to them about it. And if they want, we can work to them. We can work with them to see how we can come up with strategies to mitigate that error, and that is for free. But we have a subsidiary company where if you want to look into your products proactively, you could actually contact them. But that is for profit. It's a for profit organization, so you actually pay for that. So that is another company we are affiliated with. We also have sister organizations in Canada, in Spain, and in these three sister organizations plus the US ISM 16 other medication safety organizations globally did come together to form the International Medication Safety Network. As an international medication safety fellow at ISM, I get to work with IMSN more on international projects and go on trips with them and do much more work with them that the other fellows are not exposed to. So, for the International Medication Safety Network, last year we did have a huge project where I actually was the person leading this project from the concept of doing the groundwork. So, we did invite regulators internationally to come sit down and talk about ways to improve labeling and packaging and how we can harmonize this globally. Because imagine us from Cameroon, where we really do not have a drug company. So we are importing drugs from different countries. But when you look at the labeling for these drugs from different countries, you see that the labelings are really different. And for countries like Cameroon, where we are importing these products, you can see how you can make a lot of errors in in our country. So this initiative was done in collaboration with FDA, and I was really happy they were doing something like that because I saw how it could benefit my own country. So we did have a meeting in June of 2018, and this slide has a list of regulators that made it, and the World Health Organization was actually there. And from this meeting, we did come up with a couple of items that the regulators thought can be harmonized globally. So since this meeting was a closed meeting just for regulators, we decided to have another meeting, a follow-up meeting in Portugal, where we invited industry to come sit in the same room with regulators and talk about the same items that regulators talked about in June. That meeting was held in October, and they came up with 10 recommendations that I just finished drafting the white for those 10 recommendations. And the plan from ISMP and IMSN actually and FDA is to take this 10 recommendations once they are approved and take it to um, ICH to see how they can be harmonized globally. So if that goes through, those 10 items will be present on all drugs internationally, which will actually be very, very beneficial. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, you can send it to me or post it on the website. So, Dr. Nico, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Forby, for this great presentation. That was very, very informative. I hope the participants were able to get a thing or two or learn a thing or two like I did. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions in the chat room. I do have Dr. Anne Limona, who's collecting your NABP numbers. If you would like CE credit for this session, please, we'll hang on a few minutes after the call is done to let people type in the numbers so they can get credit. In the meantime, we'll go back to our questions. And Dr. Limona, did you want to address the questions in the survey that we had at the beginning? Dr. Forby, can you hear me?
Yes. So our first question was ISMP is a member-only regulatory agency. The answer to this one is false. So ISMP is a not-for-profit organization. We work with the regulatory agencies and standard-setting organizations, but we are not a regulatory agency, and we are not a member. We are not a membership organization too. So you cannot sign up to be a member. ISMP. Question number 2: what type of healthcare professionals work at ISMP? The answer to this is all of the above. Like I mentioned, we have pharmacists, nurses, and physicians working for working at ISMP. Who can report an error to ISMP? The answer for this one is everybody. Anybody can actually report an error to ISMP or a near miss. It must not be an error. You can hazardous condition and still report that, because we can still come up with recommendations to prevent that error from ever happening. So the next question is which ISMP tool and resources can be used proactively as part of a medication safety program? The answer to this is all of the above. We have newsletters that have safety tips that you could use, recommendations. We have guidelines that you could follow, self-assessments that you could use to assess where you are in your system, what you're doing, and how to improve it. And the last question is, in what other country does ISMP have a sister organization? And this question, I think I flipped it. I was trying not to get a negative question, and I didn't flip the answer. So it was supposed to be, in what other country does ISMP not have a sister organization? And the country is Australia.
All right. There's a question on the forum, Dr. Forby. What are the requirements for a new graduate to join an organization like yours?
So, like I mentioned, ISMP is not a member organization, and if you want to join as a fellow, then you have to apply. But new graduates don't have an opportunity to apply to ISMP because for fellowship, ISMP only takes people that have actually worked for at least a year. So my recommendation would be to get a job for at least a year or complete residency, and then you can apply. But you are still free to apply to the Medication Safety Officer Society. You could just create an account with them, and you can learn a lot from all the other medication safety officers and the questions that they are posting and responses on how other people are handling specific questions or situations in their facilities.
Awesome. Anybody else has any questions? We'll hang on here for a couple more minutes so you can get your NABP numbers in and answer a couple of more questions out there. I think there was a comment for you, Dr. Forby, to share those brochures. Is it possible to share those?
They are actually on the ISMP consumer website for free. You can just download them there. So if you go to the ISMP website, that link that takes you to the consumer website, you can actually find the brochures are there for free.
Okay.
It's on this slide. If you click the information, it will take you to their website and you can get those brochures there for free.
So the slides for this presentation will be made available to everyone that registered members. You can reach out to Dr. Limona privately after this presentation if you weren't able to get your NABP number in. And we thank everybody for signing on. We have another webinar coming up next month. So please stay tuned for our next one in April. And thank you so much, Dr. Forby, for the very informative session. And we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can respond to the other questions that just came on. I can, if I can get the contact for the people, I will send them a response.
Awesome. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna drop. Is there anything I'm supposed to do on this end, or I'm done?
All right, looks like Anne is going to share the CE code if anybody is still on. Sorry, I'm not able to type it in. Anne?